Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something pretty interesting today. We're going to be looking at a recent Health Shots article. It's all about the early signs of high cholesterol. You know, the signs a lot of us might miss.
Yeah, high cholesterol, it kind of sneaks up on you.
Right, like a silent threat. But this article suggests our bodies actually do give us some hints early on.
Exactly. It's like our body's trying to tell us something's up. We just got to learn to listen.
So the article starts off, and it mentions these tiny yellow bumps, the ones you sometimes see around the eyes, maybe at the joints. It says those could be, get this, an early sign of high cholesterol.
Those bumps, yeah. They're called xanthelasma palpebrarum. Basically, cholesterol deposits under the skin.
Cholesterol just hanging out right there, huh?
Pretty much. They're not harmful on their own, but they're definitely a red flag, you know.
A little sign saying, hey, get your cholesterol checked.
Exactly. Now, the article also talks about fatigue as a potential early sign. I think a lot of people can relate to that. We're all tired sometimes, right?
All the time. But how do we know if it's just everyday tiredness or something more serious, maybe linked to cholesterol?
Well, it's tricky. Fatigue itself isn't directly caused by high cholesterol, but here's the thing. High cholesterol can mess with your blood flow. And when your cells aren't getting enough oxygen and nutrients, you get tired. Makes sense.
Okay. So it's more about the domino effect. The complications from high cholesterol can lead to fatigue.
That's interesting. And the article also mentions something else that might sound familiar to some people, mild chest discomfort.
Ah, yeah, angina.
Angina, right. What exactly is that, and should we be worried if we experience it?
Angina is basically chest pain. Happens when your heart muscle isn't getting enough blood.
That sounds scary.
It can be. It's often a symptom of coronary artery disease, which is, well, linked to plaque buildup in the arteries, which, you guessed it, high cholesterol is a major culprit in.
So basically, angina is our heart crying out for help.
Yeah, you could say that. If you feel any chest pain, pressure, anything like that, don't ignore it. Get it checked out ASAP. Good advice. Now, before we move on, the article really stresses knowing your family history. Why is that so important when it comes to cholesterol?
Well, family history plays a huge role. If you have a parent, sibling, or child with high cholesterol, your chances of developing it go way up.
Runs in the family, huh?
Sometimes, yeah. Some types of high cholesterol are hereditary, like familial hypercholesterolemia. It's a genetic condition, causes super high LDL cholesterol, and it starts young.
So if it runs in the family, early screening is a must. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about what we eat. The article, of course, mentions diet as a major contributor to high cholesterol. What should we be watching out for in our food?
Okay, so it's not about cutting out entire food groups or anything crazy, but some things are definitely worse than others. Trans fats, for example, those are the real bad guys, found in lots of processed foods, fried foods.
Well, those are a no-go. What about saturated fats? I know those have a bad reputation when it comes to cholesterol.
Saturated fats, they're mainly found in animal products, red meat, full-fat dairy. They can contribute to high cholesterol, yeah. But to be honest, the science on saturated fat is a bit complicated. There's some debate about how much we really need to limit them. This article seems to focus more on the overall quality of your diet.
A holistic approach. Got it. What about other lifestyle factors? Things like weight, exercise, even things like smoking and drinking. Do those have an impact on our cholesterol?
They absolutely do. Maintaining a healthy weight, for instance, that can help lower your LDL cholesterol and raise your good cholesterol, HDL. Even losing a little bit of weight, like 5–10%, can make a difference.
It's good to know. What about exercise? How much, what type does it matter?
Well, this article, it stresses that any activity is better than none. They recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week. Think brisk walking, swimming, cycling. You can even break it up into smaller chunks throughout the week.
So, just gotta get moving, even if it's just for a bit each day. All right, so we've talked about diet, exercise. What about habits, like smoking and drinking? How do those fit in?
Smoking, it's a big no-no. Lowers your good cholesterol, raises your risk of heart disease. As for alcohol, moderation is key. A little is probably fine for most people, but too much can raise your triglycerides, and that's not good.
Moderation in all things.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, last question on this topic. We've talked about lifestyle, but what about things we can't control? like genetics, some people are just predisposed to high cholesterol, right?
Yeah, genetics definitely play a role. It's not always about making bad choices. Sometimes it's just how your body works.
So it's even more important for those folks to get regular checkups and work closely with your doctor.
Exactly. Regular checkups are crucial for everyone, really. They can help you identify any risk factors, assess your individual needs, and come up with a plan to manage your cholesterol.
It sounds like those regular checkups are really key, huh? So how often should we be getting our cholesterol checked, does this article say?
It does. They recommend adults 20 and up should aim for a cholesterol check every 4 to 6 years. Of course, that's just a general guideline.
Right. Individual needs and all that.
Exactly. Your doctor might recommend more frequent testing if you have certain risk factors.
Makes sense, like family history, maybe lifestyle choices, or even other health conditions.
Yeah, all those things. And for those with a family history of high cholesterol, especially if someone was diagnosed young or had really high LDL, the article suggests starting cholesterol screening even earlier.
Wow, even in childhood or adolescence.
Could be, yeah. Early detection is super important, especially if there's that genetic link.
Definitely better to be safe than sorry. Okay, so besides those regular cholesterol checks, are there other ways to keep an eye on our heart health? I think I saw something in this article about a lipid panel.
Ah, yes. A lipid panel.
Yeah.
That's a blood test. It gives you a much more detailed breakdown of your cholesterol levels.
Oh, interesting. So it's more than just a simple cholesterol number.
Right. It measures your total cholesterol, but also your LDL, your HDL, and your triglycerides.
So you get the full picture, huh?
Yeah. The good, the bad, and the triglycerides gives your doctor a much better idea of your overall heart health.
Love that. A full report card for your cholesterol. All right, let's talk about food again. The article dives into the whole heart-healthy diet thing. It mentions fiber quite a bit. Why is fiber so important for managing cholesterol?
Fiber, especially the soluble kind, it acts like a sponge in your gut. It binds to cholesterol and prevents it from getting absorbed into your bloodstream.
So it's like nature's cholesterol-lowering agent.
Exactly. Oats, beans, lentils, fruits, veggies, all great sources of soluble fiber.
Gotta load up on those. What about those healthy fats we talked about earlier? Do they have a place in a heart-healthy diet?
Absolutely. Those healthy fats, like in olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds, they can actually improve your cholesterol. They raise your good HDL and lower triglycerides.
So we can enjoy those delicious fats and help our hearts at the same time. Win-win.
Exactly. Plus, they keep you feeling full, which can help with weight management.
Speaking of managing weight, the article also mentions limiting certain types of fat, especially saturated fat. Why is that?
Saturated fat. It's a bit of a mixed bag, honestly. The research isn't totally clear-cut, but the article suggests that reducing saturated fat intake can lower LDL cholesterol. That's the bad kind that builds up in your arteries.
So it's not about completely cutting it out, but being mindful of how much we're eating?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And, replacing some of that saturated fat with unsaturated fats like olive oil or avocado can be even better for your heart.
Smart swaps.
Yeah.
All right, how about trans fats? I remember you mentioned those earlier. Those are the really bad guys, right?
Trans fats, yeah. They're the worst. They raise your bad cholesterol and lower your good cholesterol. Double whammy.
Yikes. Where do we find those, and how do we avoid them?
You'll find them in a lot of processed foods. Anything with partially hydrogenated oil on the label, read your labels carefully.
Noted. So we've talked about fat, but what about sugar? Does sugar affect cholesterol levels?
It can. Too much sugar can raise your triglycerides, another type of fat in your blood. High triglycerides are linked to heart disease. The article specifically calls out added sugars, the ones lurking in processed foods, sugary drinks, desserts.
So watch the sweet stuff too. It's all connected. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about treatment options for high cholesterol. We've talked about lifestyle changes, but what about medication? When is medication necessary?
Sometimes lifestyle changes alone aren't enough. If that's the case, your doctor might recommend medication, like statins.
Statins, those are pretty common, right?
Yeah, very effective at lowering LDL cholesterol. Really good at reducing the risk of heart problems.
How do they work exactly?
They basically block an enzyme in your liver, the one that's responsible for making cholesterol.
So they slow down cholesterol production.
Exactly. And, there are also some supplements that can help. Omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish. Those can lower triglycerides and raise good cholesterol.
So those fish oil pills my grandma swears by might actually be doing something.
They might be. Niacin, or vitamin B3, is another one. It can help with cholesterol, but it can have side effects. So talk to your doctor before taking it.
Always good advice. Supplements can be tricky. Now, I want to circle back to exercise for a minute. This article gives specific recommendations for how much we should be aiming for. What does it say?
They recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week. Things like brisk walking, swimming, cycling, dancing, even just breaking it up into shorter sessions throughout the week can make a difference.
Okay, so even a little bit here and there adds up. I like that. They also mentioned strength training. How does that fit in?
Strength training is great for building muscle, and that can actually help improve your cholesterol levels too.
So, gotta get those muscles working. All right, before we move on from this article, I'm curious about the link between mental health and heart health. Does stress directly affect cholesterol?
Well, stress itself doesn't directly affect cholesterol, but it can lead to some unhealthy habits. Overeating, smoking, drinking too much, all those things can definitely impact your heart.
Right, the domino effect again. Stress leads to bad habits lead to high cholesterol.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why this article really emphasizes managing stress. It's all part of a holistic approach to heart health.
Makes sense. What are some of the things they suggest for managing stress?
That's good stuff. Exercise, of course. Mindfulness practices like meditation or deep breathing, spending time in nature, hobbies, connecting with loved ones.
All the good things in life, right?
Exactly. And if stress is really getting to you, don't hesitate to seek professional help. There's no shame in that.
So true. Okay, we're getting close to the end of our deep dive into this article. As we wrap up, what are the key takeaways for keeping our cholesterol in check? What should we all remember?
Well, the article, it really hammers home a few points, like getting those regular lipid panels. It's like taking your heart's temperature, making sure everything's running smoothly.
Yeah, those blood tests, they're like our little spies keeping an eye on things.
Exactly. And of course, it goes without saying, but a heart-healthy lifestyle is key.
All the things we've talked about, right? Eating well, staying active, managing that pesky stress, and saying no to smoking and too much alcohol.
Yep, all that good stuff. And there's one more thing the article highlights. Keeping a health journal.
A health journal? That's interesting. How would that help with cholesterol specifically?
Well, it can help you keep track of, everything. Your diet, your exercise, even doctor's appointments. Keeps you organized, helps you stay on track.
Like a personal accountability buddy for your heart. I like it.
Exactly. And, it can also be really helpful when you talk to your doctor. You can bring your journal to appointments, show them your progress, any challenges you're having.
That's a great idea. Makes those conversations with your doctor even more productive.
Exactly. Put you in the driver's seat of your health, which is always a good thing.
Definitely. So we've come to the end of our deep dive into this Health Shots article. It's been a really interesting conversation. Anything else you want to add for our listeners? Maybe something the article didn't touch on?
This article was great, but it's just a starting point, right? There's always more to learn. One thing they didn't really mention was sleep.
Sleep. Interesting. How does sleep tie into cholesterol?
Well, studies have shown that both too little sleep and too much sleep can actually mess with your cholesterol levels.
Wow, I had no idea.
It's a bit of a Goldilocks situation. You need just the right amount. Definitely something to look into, do some more research on.
I'll add that to my list.
Yeah.
Sleep and cholesterol. Who knew?
Right. And one more thing before we wrap up. Managing cholesterol, it's not a one and done thing. It's a journey, It's about making those lifestyle changes and sticking with them.
It's about playing the long game, not looking for a quick fix.
Exactly. Small steps, consistency, and a willingness to keep learning. That's the key.
Couldn't agree more. Well, before we sign off, let's leave our listeners with a question to ponder. Something to take away from this conversation.
How about this? What's one small change you can make today to improve your heart health? Could be anything. Swap that soda for a glass of water, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Maybe just take a few minutes to breathe deeply.
Love that. A little nudge in the right direction. All right, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the early signs of high cholesterol. We hope you learned something new and feel empowered to take charge of your heart health.
Remember, knowledge is power, and taking care of your heart is a marathon, not a sprint. Be patient with yourself, keep learning, and you'll be well on your way to a healthier heart.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay healthy.